Hey guys, this is RyGuyGaming here today, and today we are doing another Roblox scripting tutorial. And today we are doing one that I have done twice before. One of the times even was a three-parter, and that is the minigame and or map changing script. And the reason I'm doing this again is because I have worked for quite a while now to make this like one of the simplest scripts I have ever made to adapt into your own place. I realized that with my last minigame script, it was a real problem for a lot of people to understand just because it was so jumbled. And so I have made this script as modular as possible so that you can make your minigames or your map changer or whatever as easily as possible. Heck, setup should take about 1 minute max. Like seriously, it shouldn't take very long at all. So let's go ahead and start looking at how we have this set up. So the first thing you're going to need a few things, but the first thing I'm going to talk about you needing is inside of the starter GUI, you are going to need a label to display all the information that we will be sending to the clients. So basically just like this bar up here that says everything. Next, you will need a folder inside of server storage called maps, and we will talk more about what to do with this folder later, but for right now all you need is this folder. Inside of the server script storage you need two scripts, one for the leaderboard and the other is for the actual map changer itself. And then inside of the replicated storage you need a remote event called update hint. And lastly, all you need in workspace is your lobby, of course, but all you really need is a spawn location, a normal one. And so let's go ahead and start looking at the script. We will go from the most simplest to the most complex. So the simplest is the one inside of the GUI. And so what this script does is it just gets the event from the replicated storage, as you can see right here, and it stores it into a variable called event. And then we create an event listener on event, and basically this event just updates the text of the label and with whatever is passed into it. And so that's it really. So next, we are going to take a look at the leaderboard script because this is the second most complicated. And if you watched my last tutorial on the map changing script, this leaderboard is exactly the same. So if you already have that leaderboard, no need to change it, but here it is again, just in case you haven't seen the last one, or I have updated it just a little bit, but not a lot. It does the same exact thing, it just looks different. And lastly, we will be looking at the map changer, but before we do that, I am going to tell you how to set up your mini games. So inside, like I said, inside of your server storage, you have a maps folder, and inside of there is where you place your mini games. Now, in order for your mini games to work, they have to be in a model. So one map per model, and the model should be named whatever the name of your map is. And then inside of there, you will need a couple folders and your map. So this part is supposed to represent like the base plate for your map. Because I wasn't going to sit here and build an entire map just for this little tutorial, but I hope you get the idea with it. But anyways, and then inside also you will need a folder that is called spawns with at least one spawn location in it, and they should be named like this. It should be spawn and then with a number that increments, so like by 1. So spawn 1, spawn 2, spawn 3. You can only have one spawn if you want, but it should still be called spawn 1 and it should still be in a spawns folder. Next, if you want your minigame to use tools, go ahead and put a tools folder inside of your minigame. If you don't want tools, just don't put a tools folder, but then put all the tools you want to be given to each player inside of the tools folder. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the map changing script. So here we are. As you can see up here, I have went out and listed instructions for you. I did not mention the tool thing in the instructions, so I will probably update that before I post this on YouTube. And if not, just know that's how you set up the tools, but basically this will tell you how to set up the maps and the spawns and everything. And then after that, you will see the options. Now, these are basically all you have to change. So the first option is the time between games. Right now, I have it set to 10 for testing purposes, but this is the time between each new round of mini game or map. The next one is your game length. This is how long the map will stay in workspace and how long your mini game will last. So right now, again, I have that set to 20. I'm probably going to put it down to 15, again, just for testing purposes. The next option is called award points, and you set this to true if you want players to be awarded points for completing the mini games. If you don't care about points, if you just want straight up mini games, just set this to false. And if this is set to true, go ahead and change this to the amount of points you want each player to get for surviving a mini game. So I have it set so that every player that survives will get 10 points. And so now we are going to go through the rest of this script. You don't really have to change anything beyond the options line, but we are just going to go through this for those of you that want to learn Lua. So as you can see here, the first thing I do is I get the map folder, which I've called map storage, which is just in game get service, and it's in the server storage. So we wait for the maps folder. The next, we get the hint event inside of the replicated storage. This time I use wait for child instead of just .update hint. I probably don't need to do that, but this is just a precaution just in case this script loads before the stuff inside of these services. That likely won't happen, but just in case. Next, you can see that I've broken all the major parts of this script up into functions instead of having it just run from top to bottom. So we will go over these functions in a minute, but they do have their own documentation right above them that explains what they do. But let's just look at the meat of the script for now, which is this while true do. So basically, this is the meat of the script. Well, it's not really the meat. This is more like the skeleton, I guess you could say. The meat is all these functions. And so the first thing we're going to do is call the countdown start function, which just counts down the time between each game. So like the next round will start in 60, 59, you know, all that seconds garbage. Then we get a list of all the players that are currently playing. And this is important so that way, just in case people join the game late, they aren't like, it would glitch out if we didn't put this here. Next, we update the hint. Now, anytime where you see hint and then parentheses, you can actually change this if you want custom text. And if you want to create like a new message, you just do what I have here. Just call the hint function and pass in text. And then just wait however long you want that to show up for. Next, we get the map by calling the select map function. And then it says the map name was chosen, and then we put the map in the workspace right here, and then we tell them that we're teleporting the players, and then we call the start function and pass in the players list and the map, and then we call the countdown to end, which is like there are 120 seconds left in this round, and it counts down. And then there is the wrap up function, which calls for the player list and the map so that it can be removed. So let's go ahead and look at each of these functions one by one, and I'll tell you what they do. The first function is the hint function, which basically is just an easier way to do this. I didn't want to have to type this every time, so it's way easier to just type hint. So basically all this does is it gets the hint event and calls the fire all clients method on it. That's it. The next function is the countdown to start function, which just uses a simple for loop with the time between games being the initial starting point. So in mine, for example, it's 10, and then it counts down. So, and then it will say, welcome to Ry123's mini games. Again, you can change any of the purple text you want if you know what you're doing. Obviously you probably want to change the Ry123 part or whatever your place name is. But then it says please wait I seconds for the next round to start, and I will go down by 1 every second because we wait 1 second every time we iterate through this loop. The next function is the select map function. What this function does is it sets the the random seed. You don't need to do this, but it just makes it so that every time you start a new server, you aren't stuck with the same seed every time. So next we get the maps from the map storage, and then we just return a random map pretty much. So basically what this does is it returns from the maps table a random number from 1 to the length of the maps table, a clone of it. I know that's confusing. I don't know how to explain that any better. Basically, it just returns the clone of a random map in the maps folder in the server storage. Next up is the start function, which takes the list of players and the map, like we said. The first thing it does is it gets the spawns inside of the map. So it gets all the spawns, and then it tries to look for the tools folder. The next thing it does is we create another for loop, which will iterate through each of the players in the player list. And so what we do is we set their alive value to true. This helps us keep track of who has died in the mini game and who hasn't. And then we move them to one of the random spawn locations. Again, this is kind of confusing to look at, so just trust me that it works, but that's how that works. And then next, if there is a tool folder, so like I said, you can delete the tool folder if you don't want tools in that specific mini game, then it will get the tools from the tool folder and copy them into each one of the players' backpacks. So you can have as many tools as you want, and it will just put them all in the player's backpack. Now, the second to last function is the countdown to end, which is basically the same thing as the countdown to start. It's just a little bit different. It just uses the game length as the initial point and counts down backwards. So this is the one that says there are this many seconds remaining in the round. And the last function is called the wrap up function, and this takes the list of players that were playing the mini game and the map. So the first thing we do is we just set up a blank string called winners. This is where we will store a list of all the people who won, so we can say like congratulations blah 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 for surviving or whatever. Then we go through each of the players and we want to check to see if they lived. If they live, their alive value will be true. So if it is true, we add them to the winners list with a comma and a space for the next winner. And then we move them back to a spawn location in workspace. This will just pick a random spawn location, and then it clears out the players' backpacks. Now the players that die, their backpack will be cleared anyways, so you don't have to worry about that. And then if you have it set in the options to award points, it will just award the players that lived points. Then it destroys the map, tells you that the game is over, and says congratulations to the winners for surviving. So I know that was probably pretty confusing and that was a lot of stuff to go over, but as long as you follow the instructions in this video and in the script, you should be just fine and not have to worry about anything. So I went ahead and I put my map back in my maps, and I'm going to start a server with 2 players to show you guys how this all works, so I'll see you in a second. So as you can see here, the mini game has already kind of started, but we're selecting the map. The map earthquake was selected, which was the name of my model, and then we get teleported to the map. We each got teleported to separate spawn points. Sometimes you'll get teleported to the same one, but most of the time you'll get teleported to separate ones, just depending on how the randomness works. We have our tool, and now the game is over. We're teleported back, the map is removed, our tools are removed, and we have points, and it tells us congratulations for surviving. Now, I am going to run through this one more time and show you what happens when one of the players dies. Alright, so here we are. I'm just going to kill this guy with my scythe. Sadly, it doesn't swing, so I just kind of have to beat him with it till he dies. And now you can see that he returns back to the spawn and he won't have a scythe. And now that the game is over, I get teleported back and my scythe is cleared, and it says I win and I get the extra 10 points. So now it's 10 to 20. And so that is pretty much it for this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it made sense. I know I was talking fast and I went over a lot of stuff. I'm not feeling very well. I'm gonna try to edit out all my coughs and stuff. Hopefully I don't forget any, but I really do hope you at least found this a little helpful. And if you go through it and try to understand it, it helps for future scripting a whole lot. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this and found it helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and maybe share it with a buddy or share it just on like social media or something. And if you want to, post down in the comments with any suggestions you might have for future tutorials or just with anything you need help with. If you can't get the script working for some reason, be sure to let me know down below in the comments as well. I'd be happy to help anyone as long as you post your output and try to help me find out why it isn't working so I can help you better. And that's it for this tutorial. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.